But I'm pumped to be here with Doom. I'm a big fan of his from the Twitter world. I'd meant to hang out with him earlier, didn't have the chance. And like I was telling Omar just now, who might go by Doom, I'm about to ask him.
I can go either way, man. Either way.
I like Doom. I like Doom a lot. As a fan, it's fun to watch the top players and everything, but as a level and a fan, I'm more interested in people who have a goal, and I think maybe they have a chance, and I know that it's a struggle, and I kind of can see my own struggles and their struggles, and that's what's interesting to me. And especially after Magnus abdicated, what is there? What is there? I need somebody like Doom to follow, right? After Magnus blows it, what am I supposed to do? Yeah, what a Magnus right here, buddy. I can't. It's hard to be your fan now, buddy. It's hard to be your fan. So, all right. So, as I understand, now Omar can correct me, but I think Omar has been busting it, streaming, trying to get above 1,000. By 1,000, I think we're roughly talking, ChessCon, but we could also be talking about USCF or FIDE and stuff.
USCF is the closest I got to 1,000 was I came in unrated my first tournament and played in the wrong section. I played a section up, thinking that 1,500 was comparable to what was online. Mm-hmm. You just don't know any better. And I remember getting there, and some of the guys who were in that section were like, "This is your first tournament?" And I was like, "Yeah." And they were like, "And you chose 1,500?" And I said, "Well, in that Lead Chess kind of or ChessDojo, they start you off at this like that's the beginning rating." Right. And they were like, "No, it's very different here at an over the board tournament." And I found out the hard way, though. I did manage to surprisingly win one game, and that was what lost 4, won 1, and that one win is what propelled me to a slightly bloated provisional rating. I've played 15 total games in over 3 tournaments, and am now sitting at about, I want to say like 844, so like right around 850. Okay. But the goal for USCF is to get to 1,000. I've got 10 more games before that rating is no longer provisional. So these next 10, I gotta get right. I've gotta go in prepared.
So, and I'm guessing you started fairly recently, right?
2 years ago.
Nice. Okay.
That was a Queen's Gambit. Watch Beth Harmon beat everybody up, and you think, well, that looks easy. I bet if I train for 3 months, I'll be fine.
Right.
Grandmaster after 3 months of dedicated training. Shouldn't take that long, right? Yeah, of course.
Nice, dude. Okay, well, let's get into it, dude. And I think
okay.
I'm gonna give you a little bit of tough love, okay? Because I think if I tell you a couple things and you follow them, I think it'll really help. Now, a lot of these things basically is the advice of the dojo training program, but I'm not trying to sell you on the dojo training program. I'm going to try to sell you on a couple basic things, though. Okay?
Okay.
All right. Now, first thing, let's get into this. By the way, if you're watching this is Doom's own notes. I do this anytime I do a lesson or anything. I want somebody to write out the notes. Doom's notes are great. And one thing we've discovered with the program is that we have people submit their games, and I think it's because they realize they might be public, right? They're elucidating their thoughts really clearly, like you're doing here. And it gives me a real insight into how you're thinking about the game here, too. Okay, so let's get into it. I want to say a couple things about this right away. One thing that we do at the dojo training program that no one follows, but I know would help you, okay, is we say no openings at all until you hit 1,200 FIDE, which would be about 1,300 USCF.
Wow.
Now, people get freaked out by that because they love studying openings. It feels empowering to study openings. But one of the things that I want to stress that goes on in your notes here is I can see it's making your life more complicated rather than making it easier.
Yeah.
Okay. So I know you're probably not going to follow this, okay? No, but I think it would be helpful if you just forget about openings until you
listen to you.
All right, until you hit 1,200 FIDE, which is about 1,300 USCF. And so the reason is when we look at your notes, there's all kinds of stuff about Perk and London and all this stuff. Instead of just thinking about what are the opening principles and what does that mean to be playing with opening principles. And so what I will say is that to make 1,000, this is my experience as a coach as a long time, whether it was 20 years ago or now, it's because you're hanging pieces. That's
Right.
why you're not above 1,000. So I like to call it Plato's cave, under under 1,000. Because you're still mastering the material dimension of the game. Right?
Right.
Now, there's other things about the game that you can appreciate while you're on your journey to 1,000. But what will get you out of the cave is not hanging stuff. All right, so that's my rant to get openings. Let's go into this game here. So, Bishop F4, okay, and we get this whole thing about the London.
Yep.
Okay, fine. Okay, so I think your notes here are great about knight h5. Knight h5 is not yet correct. And let me just put it in my own words. Because the only reason to play knight h5 is if you are going to snag the bishop. If you do not snag the bishop, then the knight is misplaced on h5.
Right.
Okay. Now, one thing about this knight h5 thing that's interesting to me is I'm going to go ahead and guess like you had seen it in a different opening.
Oh, it's done to me all the time. All the time. I play the bishop's openings, but it's usually coming from the other side.
Okay.
And a player will play because when you play the bishop's opening, you know this. It's typically sitting on what is it, c4? You're playing bishop c4 as your second move or something like that because you played e4, then bishop c4.
Yeah. Okay.
And so you'll get the knight c6 sometimes as a response, and then
knight a5.
Knight a5. And so that's where this idea was even born out of I'm like, well, wait a minute. They always play this annoying knight move against me. I wonder if this is something here. And this is the danger of me playing classical with more time to think than I'm used to having because of how much blitz I play. And so I go in with the mindset of, I'm going to be disciplined, I'm going to develop, I'm going to do this and that. And then what happens is I get, I'm aggressive as a player by nature just anyway, but I don't know enough to really capitalize on my aggression. What happens is I get bailed out because my opponents make more mistakes than I do. And that's the most of the games I'll win is because somebody hung more pieces than me or made more mistakes than me.
Yeah, and that's
you'll win a game, but you won't get better.
Right. So
And I know that, and I do it anyway because it's too tempting to go and get. And I think as you read my notes, I say it as I'm looking at it like, I can't believe I played like this. Because outside of it, I'm typically very logical, like, because I know that these are the things that you're supposed to do, but I have not developed enough discipline to do it. Now, what's interesting, Jesse, is that if I'm in an over-the-board tournament, I don't play like this. It's something about online. Over the board, something about having a physical chess piece in your hand that you just don't want to give that up. I'm a lot more careful over the board. But online, I'll take risks. And I think I don't know why I have not developed that discipline. And I think this is why, it's weird. With ChessDojo, I know it will help me. I've just got to develop the patience to actually sit down and play the right way. So that's really why I'm so excited to talk to you, because this is something that I know that I need, but I have not utilized the tool because I signed up for it, but I never really got going the way that I needed to. And that was something that I definitely wanted to talk to you about today.
Yeah, we will. So first of all, I don't want you to bust your balls too much about knight h5. I think you probably didn't see bishop g5, right? That's something anybody can miss, right? And frankly, like let's say you had played bishop g7, knight f3. Now knight h5 will work because you can get the bishop, right? And you can get the bishop. Now, something I want to stress that's really interesting about you grabbing the bishop here is, with the development of computers, even the lower rated players are becoming bishop obsessed. But it's important to see that, I don't know, at the time of Smyslov and Botvinnik, they actually thought the knight was as good as the bishop. It wasn't until Fischer came along that people became obsessed with the bishop. So you got to say to yourself, wait a second, Baus. Okay, maybe the computer knows how to play with the bishop, but if Smyslov and Botvinnik thought it was equal, then for me it's basically equal. Okay?
Fair enough.
So one thing I want you to see is what goes down with this knight h5 is you are going to lose some time and you are going to gain an abstract advantage. Okay? Now, it's going to be a good abstract advantage, but it's not, it's going to be dangerous because you're going to be falling behind in time. By time, I mean tempo, development.
Yeah.
All right? So let's get into it. And what would, if I was just going to ask you to play a good move here, what would be your first instinct?
Develop the bishop.
Yeah, bishop G7.
Yeah, exactly.
For sure, you wouldn't even think about it. Okay, here we go. So, knight d2, knight h5. He doesn't think about it, plays bishop g3. Snip. Okay, so now a dogmatic thing that I want you to see about, just the way I think about chess, okay, is that I want to say now dude is up 2 tempi on you. Okay, let's talk about it. So he's got 1 and 2. He's got the knight developed, and now his rook's developed.
Right.
Okay. Now that's still, I still like your position here. I actually like it a lot. But you have to understand that the reason you to think about it is like you could say, well, I have compensation for my lost time in the fact that my bishop is cool. Okay. And we're going to have to talk about this bishop. This is a hard thing to understand for even grandmasters, how to play this position. Because the thing to see is like your dark square control is so amazing that first of all, it's going to be very hard for him to mate you, even if you castle into it. Even if you castle into it, it's very hard to mate you because your bishop's so strong there. You control just so many squares. Very hard for him to actually get at you, right? And then the dream is clear. At some point, we want to open this guy up. He might not let us. He shouldn't let us. But
Right.
that's our long-term goal, is to open that thing up. Okay? So this is an example of something, honestly, it was a little bit highfalutin for where you are right now, but I'm just describing the dynamics. And what I really want you to sense is that you're down in time in this position.
Okay.
All right? Okay, so here we go. Knight d7. I don't think this is terrible, but if you were just to put a move on the board, what would it be?
I would develop that bishop.
Yeah, you play bishop g7.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, so knight d7, c3. Kind of a weird move, but let's think about it in terms of what I was talking about with the bishop. Why is c3, even if it's weird, let's just say, what's the right move for him? The dude should play knight f3. Even if c3 is a little bit weird, why is it not dumb?
Because he is making sure, like it now getting to that rook, which was the, opening that thing up, is that much harder.
Good.
What's interesting about this, and I know I'm getting ahead of it a little bit,
Yeah.
but had he left things like this, I think that it long term, again, at this point, if you just look at the position, and you're the GM, so you correct me if I'm off, but me at my sub 1000 brain, my amateur mind, looks at this and says, whatever advantage I had on the dark squares is basically addressed. He does not need, if he doesn't move a single pawn, I still have the light square bishop, but so does he. And so basically, I think either white has a slight advantage because of the development, in the lost time. I've got more work to do to get things set up, and there's no advantage because the pawns are so strong. It kind of negates what I wanted to do. I'd have to chip away at something, and who's to say what the position would look like as I attempted to do that. He's got a lot of work that he can do in order to solidify some things, get his king safe, and really make things difficult for me, particularly at my level, not really knowing what I'm doing. But even though you said you like the position, I don't know what I'm doing with it. It was starting out, was supposed to be a King's Indian defense, and now it's something that is slightly different. And part of me, my rationale for moving that knight to where my knight is, was to kind of try to get it to look like the King's Indian.
I see, right.
As much as I could, hence having to move that knight twice. I wanted to get him to f6, get developed. But what ends up happening is, as white moves, my whole plan changes because I'm like, well, we've kind of just been winging it, and now he's done things that are going to force me to wing something else, and it becomes this thing where I'm just trying to keep him off balance to negate the fact that I gave away time.
Okay. Now check us out.
Yeah.
This whole thing about bringing the knight to f6 because that looks like a King's Indian or something. Look, see how openings are. It's making your life more complicated.
Yeah.
We just want you to develop, boss. We don't want you to do anything else. We just want you to develop your pieces. Doesn't have to be that complicated, right? So clearly the next move here should be bishop g7. That's it. We don't know what he's going to do yet. We'll figure it out after he moves, but we're going to play bishop g7 first. So from a dogmatic standpoint, let's talk about it. Right. What's wrong with knight f6?
It means, well, just on that, let me slow down. I've moved the knight twice. That's probably the one thing that, is that it? Is it that simple?
So it's that simple. So in this position, white is up 2 tempi because he's got 2 pieces out and you don't. Okay?
Right.
And then he loses a tempo. Now he's only up 1. Now he's back to 2.
Yep.
Okay? All right, here we go. Boom, reasonable move. I don't know why he's not playing knight f3. No one knows. And now you played c5. All right. What move do you think I want you to play?
Continue to develop that bishop.
Yeah, bishop g7, boss.
Yeah. If I would actually develop, I'd be dangerous if I just develop my pieces. Right?
That's right. You'd be really dangerous.